Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast, and now here's a guy who's always ready to Moroccan roll, Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Amazing Race podcast here on a Friday night, live October 24th, and we are very, very sad tonight to talk about the departure of Survivor royalty from the Amazing Race. Very, very sad news to report tonight. I know that Jessica Liese is in mourning tonight. Here she is. Jessica, how are you holding up?
I'm hanging in there, Rob. It's a tough time for all of us.
It's a tough time for all of us, for Whitney and Keith, Survivor legends, to be departed from the Amazing Race. Very, very sad to see them go. It has not been a great fall for the crossover teams. Of course, on the Amazing Race, or on Survivor, Natalie is hanging in there, but Nadia is not doing so well. Hopefully I'm not spoiling any of Survivor Blood versus Water 2 for anybody. And now Whitney and Keith do not make it to the halfway mark in the Amazing Race. It was a night of things that you could write a country music song about, Jessica.
It's true. At least there's plenty of fodder for Whitney's next album.
Yeah, so there was inspiration in all things. We talked about finding the good in all bad things that happened to us last week, and hopefully Whitney can find a way to turn this into a hit album.
I think Whitney's very good at keeping it together and being resolute.
Okay, good. Anytime you can be resolute, that's good. That's good. Although it might be a night when they turn to absolute.
Yeah, well, if they can't afford Grey Goose because the last album didn't do well, I don't know.
Jess, being so catty.
I don't know what Whitney does that just brings this out of me, but she did it on Nashville Star, she did it on Survivor, and it's happening again.
You don't have a crush on Keith, do you?
No.
That's not the issue?
I don't think so. That's not the issue.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to talk about everything that went on tonight on a night when Whitney and Keith got U-turned, although it was really a waste of the U-turn. You didn't even have to U-turn them. They were going to go out anyway and come in last. So we'll talk about everything. Glad to have you guys here with us live, those of you guys who are joining us here on a Friday night. We got robhasawebsite.com in the chat going. Plus, we have our Twitter open. Scott St. Pierre is monitoring all of your tweets, hashtag RHAP, and then also, of course, on our YouTube channel at robhasawebsite.com/YouTube. Okay, Jess, I thought this was a very fun episode tonight, just overall.
Yeah, it was a great location and fantastic tasks, and it looked like everybody, for the most part, was having a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun was had by all up until Whitney and Keith just couldn't get it done. All right, let's just start with the big confrontation tonight that ultimately caused Shelley and Nici to want to U-turn Keith and Whitney. Now, Keith and Whitney had not had any sort of encounter with Shelley and Nici previously on the race. It seemed like had that not happened, that it would have been the dentists who were the ones to get U-turns. Would that have saved Whitney and Keith? I'm not sure, but let's go back to that confrontation. Can you take us through exactly what happened from your vantage point?
All right, here's what I think went down. Shelley finished her... Who did the roadblock? I think it was actually Nici who did the roadblock because Shelley was yelling at her. And Nici finishes the roadblock, and she comes running in. They're in first place. And she comes running up, and as soon as she gets there, they can get their clue. And a little ways behind her is Whitney. And so Nici runs up, and Shelley and Nici are both there. They can have their clue, and Keith comes in front of them. He's like, well, there's Whitney. I can have my clue, too. And he kind of pushes in front of them. And Whitney's not technically there yet.
Yes.
So that's what was going on. That's why they were upset.
Yeah.
It seemed like, they were technically they were in the right, but it seemed like kind of a small thing to get that upset about.
It really did, because it was not even the pit stop.
No, there was so much ahead of them. Like, if it was right up next to the pit stop and they were near the back of the pack, that would be one thing, but they were way up at the front of the pack. There were a lot of teams behind them. They still had a whole lot of race coming up. It just seemed like that was a slight overreaction, which in no way condones anything that Keith did.
Bobby Kelly in the chat room calls it a massive overreaction.
Yeah, I would term it a massive overreaction, although Keith could have conducted himself a little bit better too for his part.
Was it just as bad on Shelley and Nici?
I think so. I think you got to put equal blame on both sides here. I don't think I don't think Keith should have shoved them, but I also don't think that they should have flipped out about it.
Should teams be on their best behavior when they know a U-turn is in the mix on a given leg?
Well, definitely, yeah. You don't want to piss off the wrong person.
So this was the worst possible time for both of those teams to get into a confrontation like that.
Yeah. Yeah, whoever was getting there first was probably just going to use the U-turn out of spite.
Now, Whitney and Keith were really mad about that. First, Shelley and Nici said it was dirty play. Now, Whitney said that she was so mad she can't even say the words she wants to describe Shelley and Nici. Jess, do you have any guesses as to what words Whitney wanted to call Shelley and Nici
I think they're
that she was not able to say?
those three little mellifluous poetic words that, strike a little bolt of love into the heart of every reality TV fan. You disgust me.
You disgust me? Well, that's not something you would call somebody.
No, but you might refer to them.
Disgusting people?
Yes.
Now, you'd be able to say that, though.
Oh, sure, you could say that on the air. I don't know why she didn't.
So what was it that she wanted? She said she wanted to call them something that she wasn't able to say.
I don't know. She's a songwriter. She should be able to come up with some way around it. Like, use your words, Whitney. You're supposed to be a poet here.
Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what was it that Whitney wanted to say to them, but that she felt that she could not say.
Maybe it was, I don't know if it was that she didn't think she could say it on TV, or she was just so emotional about it she couldn't get the words out.
I'm not sure. But Keith said then he was going to say it.
Yeah.
He was going to say it. What do you think? You think it was jerks?
Yeah, I think it was meanie heads.
Okay, so we'll start with Keith and Whitney. So as far as the legacy of the reality competitors on The Amazing Race, has the Whitney and Keith experiment, would you say it was a positive thing for the legacy, negative thing for the legacy of the Survivor and Big Brother players on The Amazing Race, or about par for the course?
I'm going to say it's neutral.
Neutral.
I don't think it did any harm. I don't think they're going to sit back and say, oh, we can't ever have survivors on that show again. But I also, I don't think they did much to improve the legacy.
Now, they went ahead and they had to postpone their honeymoon to go on The Amazing Race.
I think going on The Amazing Race has to be better than any possible honeymoon they could have had planned.
Why? You feel like they didn't have something good planned, or going on The Amazing Race is so great?
You get to go, how many countries do you get to go to on a typical honeymoon?
Yeah. Well, it depends what you're into. Some people like to go and relax.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. That's no fun. You don't get to see anything.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess this was a fun trip. Now, they were in first place, so it really was a first to worst here in the second half of this episode.
Yeah, I liked that there was a lot of opportunity to mix things up, which I think is a hallmark of a good leg.
Yeah. There was a lot going on here, and we'll talk about all of the different the detour and the roadblock. So just to finish up on Keith and Whitney here, do you feel like had Jim and Misty been U-turned, do you think that Keith and Whitney would have been able to pass them?
It does not appear that they would have been able to pass them.
Yeah.
Because it looked like it took them, it said on the screen, it took them almost 3 hours to finish the hat twirling, and I think Jim and Misty could have finished it faster.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they were going to be able to overcome the, that one task was so bad. And they really needed to start with the T task. So, Jess, tell me, at what point do Keith and Whitney overstay? Like, there's a right and a wrong time for them to leave that task. They need to identify that quickly, that they're not going to be able to complete this task. But the fact that they wait so long means that ultimately they're going to get U-turned and have to complete it anyway. So how soon into that task should they have said, I need to quit?
I think they should have thrown in the towel pretty fast, because I think there's two indicators that might suggest that you need to quit a roadblock. The first one is if you're doing the same thing over and over and you have no idea what you're doing wrong. I guess, quit a detour, excuse me. If you're doing the same thing over and over and you have no idea what you're doing wrong and nobody will tell you and you're not getting any better, that's time to go try the other task. And the other one is, if you do know what you're doing wrong and you're not getting any better at it, then you definitely need to consider trying the other thing.
What's a fair amount of time to give to a task before you decide to move on?
I think it depends on the task. It depends a lot on how long it's taking the other teams. Like, if teams are in and out of there in 20 minutes, you need to quit a little bit quicker. But if it's one of those longer, like hour and a half long things, then you could probably give it a little bit more effort.
Okay. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the tasks tonight and get your take on what was going on. So, of course, we headed down to Morocco, and we started to see the revelation that Misty and Jim tell Shelley and Nici that they did not have to use the save. And Jim says he liked it that other teams knew he has the save because he felt like strategically that would prevent the other teams from using the U-turn on him. We talked on the show last week, Jess, and we said that will Shelley and Nici say they use the save so other teams won't try to go after them because they have the save. So what do you think is the right thing strategically based on your knowledge of the psychology of Amazing Race teams?
Well, there's two ways you can go. You can try to do everything you can to make sure they flush the save, or it can be sort of like the really powerful idols in the earlier seasons of Survivor, where all you had to do was just kind of flash it around, and people just ignored you because they knew there wasn't anything they could do about it.
So what do you think? Do you think that Jim had the right idea?
I think Jim had the right idea. Like, just put it out there. It's a pretty powerful thing, and it says that, we're a good team, and it doesn't matter if we screw up because we still have an extra bye.
So you say just take it out, let everybody see it.
Take it out and let everybody see it.
Like everybody see it, and then everybody will stay away from you.
Yes. That's
okay.
That's advice in life as well. If you take it out and let everybody see it, everyone's going to stay away from you.
That makes a lot of sense, Jess. Okay, so that's the way that Jim is going to play it. Jim's eyes in this episode seemed like they were really about to pop out of his head. Or like, what is something going on with Jim? Like, is his blood pressure just getting to the point? There was a point when he was working on the speed bump, and he said about his hands that he couldn't work on the hooks because his hands are so pumped. Like, what's going on, Jess?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't think I can diagnose these kinds of things. I do like that on Twitter the recurring joke is that he's a Mr. Potato Head and he keeps like swapping out his angry eyes for his excited eyes.
Yeah, Jim is great TV, but I'm worried about him.
Yeah, he seems like the stress is just kind of building up inside of him and it might explode.
Yeah, I want to get a blood pressure reading on Jim.
Yeah, he needs to sublimate that stress before it totally takes him over.
Got to count to 10 a couple times on this race.
Let's do some yoga.
Okay, so we end up going to Morocco, and what a treat that we find out that Nici can speak Moroccan. That came in handy.
She was speaking Spanish, and I don't know. Like, I know that the official language in Morocco is Arabic, but I thought that mostly they spoke French, and I guess owing to the like Moorish association and being close to Spain, I'm gonna guess that there's probably some Spanish spoken, depending on where you are. But it seemed kind of odd that she just busted out the Spanish. The driver seemed to know what she was talking about, so I guess good for her.
Well, that seems far less impressive that Nici can speak Spanish. I thought she got to speak Moroccan.
No, she wasn't speaking Moroccan, sadly.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, so they ran through this marketplace and all sorts of crazy things. There was a king cobra around.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
that was pretty awesome. And so here's our first task that we're going to get to. We're going to work on Card It Out. What do you think of Card It Out as a task, Jess?
Oh, it was lame because it was basically just these guys are setting up for the evening and you're going to help them. It wasn't you set it up to their specifications or, you have to do this yourself. they're going to tell you what to do and you're going to do it. Like, let's all be good helpers.
Some of the teams got like really gross food carts, and other ones got good food carts.
Yeah, it was very luck of the draw whether you got the egg cart or the meat cart or the vegetable cart.
What cart would you like?
I think it sounded like the vegetable cart was the winning cart there.
I think that was the one to go.
Unless there's like a cake cart or something. Like, is there a dessert cart?
Yeah.
Because I'd be all over that.
I don't know. So the carts is like the food truck business in Morocco?
Yeah, it is. It looks like it's more like it's a temporary restaurant that they set up in the evening and then they pack it all up and go away.
Yeah, if you could get the stuff from the food cart and then take it to your parking space in Copenhagen, then I think you'd have a real winning plan, right?
Yeah, now that's a party. That's like a multicultural extravaganza.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check out the sheep's head cart and then go pick up a bowl of sheep head soup and then go set it in my parking spot.
Yep, and I'll get a dozen eggs and kick back in my couch in my parking spot. Be awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so meanwhile, we had the speed bump, okay? And the speed bump was getting the hang of it.
Getting the hang of it. Which
Yes.
We love those puns.
Yes, we're getting the hang of it. So, what did you think with getting the hang of it? So Jim's poll, he was working on getting all of those things up, and they were having some issues.
Yeah, they couldn't seem to get their pole off.
Yes, they had.
And I hate it when that happens, you know.
Yes, and then at one point, Misty couldn't get her pole down.
Yeah, and Jim had to go over and help her get the pole off.
Yes. Yeah. And if you can't get your pole down for more than 4 hours, consult your doctor.
Yeah, well, you can just add that to the list of things Jim's got to ask his doctor about.
Yeah, starting with what's going on with his eyes.
Starting with that.
So they end up are working on it, and it seems like at this point, Jim is getting increasingly frustrated with Misty.
Yeah, it looks like, you know, she's having a considerable amount of trouble with it, and he's starting to feel the pressure coming down because he knows everybody else is working on their task.
The blood pressure coming down?
Yes. That is exactly it.
Well, that's good.
It's like, you know, behind his eyes, like, and you know, behind him, he can see everybody else getting their task done, and he knows how far behind he is.
Yeah, I mean, Jim is trying to literally carry this team on his back right now. I mean, you saw with the carpets, he's like, "I'll carry everything." Like,
yeah, he wouldn't let her carry anything.
He's like, "Just give it to me."
Like, I can handle it. I'm carrying it. Well, if you can't carry it, make sure you give it to me.
Give it to me. Yeah, Jim is, well, he's like a Mr. Incredible.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, he's like the Hulk.
He just wants to do everything, and then Misty is like, "Oh, okay, I'll work on this." He's like, "No, you're doing it wrong."
Yeah, but I think there's more of a partnership going on than what we're seeing. I think in really stressful moments, he tends to be like alpha male. I can do it, let me handle it. But I've also noticed that he let Misty kind of take a lead on the other tasks. Like when they got to the roadblock, and this is something I'm gonna put it out there. I think they might have been listening to us as they were trying to go on the race, because something that I have frequently said about doing roadblock is, if you do really poorly on a roadblock and it's getting up in your head, the best way to get over that hump is to do the next roadblock. Get your confidence back. And Misty went straight for the roadblock, and that was exactly what she wanted to do, and Jim was a smart guy to let her do it.
So you're saying Misty is a Jessica Liese disciple?
Well, all the cool racers are.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to take full credit for that. I'm just going to point out, you know, correlation does not imply causation here, but this is something that we've talked about a lot on our show, and I heard Jim espouse a couple of other Jessica Liese originals. I'm not going to call them originals. I'm sure other people have.
What are the other Jessica Liese originals that Jim has said?
When he was talking about the U-turn, he said, "You should never U-turn somebody you intend to see again." And how many times have I said that on the show?
Oh my God.
I'm not going to say that they're ripping me off. I'm not going to say I inspired them. I'm going to say we're all simpatico when it comes to this philosophy. And I think that means they've been doing their homework and they know all about all the good tricks.
Hold on, let me consult my copy of the JL rules over here. Oh my God, it's true. Never U-turn a team that you're going to see again. It's
Yeah, I
amazing.
think, yeah, if I had a bell, I'd ding that.
Whoa. Whoa. Okay. If you struggle with a roadblock, make sure you do the next one. JL rules. Whitney and Keith, you're dead to me. Jessica, that was not necessary to put in your book.
I'm sorry, Whitney and Keith.
Stop it. Stop it. Your hatred of Whitney knows no boundaries.
I don't hate Whitney. I'm I'm exasperated by her continued presence on my television, or at least I was until tonight.
Okay.
But I don't hate her.
All right. What do you think
She's
is
a perfectly lovely individual.
what's the next reality show for Team Weave?
Um, that's a good question. I would love to see them on the quest next summer.
Oh. So, will Whitney be the one true hero?
Maybe she will be.
Yes.
She can save Everrealm with the power of song.
Yes. Well, like Bonnie, will Sir Ansgar be able to officiate the wedding of Whitney and Keith?
I think Sir Ansgar might be disgusted by them.
No, Verlox is disgusted by them, by their one true hero-ness. Okay, so let's talk about the cart, putting the carts together. Again, I felt like they talked about Bethany in this episode tonight. A couple of the teams were talking about how she's basically is a badass, but she really is. Like she really is very good. I mean, I don't even know how that she was like working on keeping the cart going.
Yeah, that was really amazing. She did a lot of stuff that I think would be hard for people with two arms. And it's one of those things you kind of forgot that she only has one.
Yeah, she's really good, especially when we get to the roadblock. She's just really good. So also, going back to Team Weath, there was a French guy who was in the mix with Team Weath, and there was a guy who had a crush on Whitney. Did you notice this, Jess?
I did notice this, and it was something that they even remarked on when they were going into the leg, that Whitney, by virtue of being, tall and blonde and striking looking, is going to garner a lot of male attention in a country like Morocco. And it proved true. People were quite taken with her.
Do you think that Keith was threatened about this new suitor for Whitney?
Well, Keith is much bigger than him, so I don't think he was all that threatened. Although, maybe he should think about, how Whitney regards her spouses when she goes on reality shows. I'm just saying.
Jessica, that's...
Oh, man, I got the buzzer.
Take it easy. Take it easy.
Oh, you're no fun anymore.
I'll stop this podcast right now.
Are you going to turn the podcast around, Rob?
Turn this podcast around. We'll go back, and I'll pick up somebody from the chat room, and we'll start over again.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
You can't get rid of me that easily.
All right, Keith Dixon, get your webcam fired up. Get ready to go. All right, so let's talk about something that I thought was very interesting. When they were on the course, Phil told us about how that the dentists were 12 minutes behind the other teams. I really like that.
They were right there. That was like a Jeff Probst move.
No, but I feel like 12 minutes, I feel like that's not that bad. I thought from the edit, I thought that the dentists were like an hour behind everybody else.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty good, but still I don't want to be reminded of it. Not while I'm trying to make up time.
12 minutes is good.
Like, he might as well have been like, Misty and Jim are terrible at this task.
No, they were right in there. To me, that was like Misty and Jim are on everybody's heels. Here they come.
Making up a lot of time.
Making up a lot of time. Dig, dentists! All right, let's talk about the disgusting roadblock tonight, which was...
This roadblock disgusts me, Rob.
Yes, and that would be an appropriate use of that, to be disgusted by that roadblock. Pull the hair off a hide. And if you were a PETA person tonight, you had to not have been thrilled with this roadblock on The Amazing Race.
Yeah, fortunately, I'm not a PETA person.
Yes.
I thought it was wonderful to get a look into some of the complicated processes that go into making fine Moroccan leather.
Yes.
It was educational. I like it when I learn something.
Do you own any fine Moroccan leather?
Not to my knowledge.
Yes. Okay.
But
Well,
I'd like to.
now what animal was that?
Goat.
Goat. Okay. So you had to then like put the stuff in like the what would you call the batter that the goat pelts were in?
The curing chemicals. Well, you know what they frequently use when you're curing leather is urine. I don't know if that's what they were using, but that's one thing that is used. So, soaking an animal hide in pee and then scraping all the hair off it, I'm sure that wasn't pleasant.
We know that Shelley and Nici would have had a leg up in that one. Literally.
They would. God. Nice one. Nice one, Rob. Ding.
Okay. Anyway, so this seemed really gross, and a lot of the teams were commenting on how bad it smelled to be removing the hair from the goat pelts.
Yeah, it did not look pleasant.
It didn't look pleasant.
Sure. I felt bad for Brooke because it seemed like that was really getting to her.
Yes, it seemed like she was really struggling with it. A couple people were really struggling with it. Maya was not struggling.
No, Maya is used to chemicals.
Yes, yes. Is it possible that Maya has no sense of smell from all of the time spent with chemicals?
That is a possibility, although that would probably handicap her since she works with ice cream.
Yes. Well, you have to smell ice cream?
Well, smell is an important component of taste, and if you're working on trying to make things taste good, you got to be able to smell them.
Yeah. Jess, I do not have a great sense of smell, and I think it's an advantage, not a disadvantage.
I think you're probably right about that.
There's more bad smells in the world than good smells.
Until you get to that sommelier roadblock where you have to identify all of the top notes in a glass of wine. But yeah, I'll do that one, so we're all set.
Okay, good. So Maya was talking about how, this is great to experience the culture. What'd you think about Jim? That he's like Maya's so ridiculous that she's talking about what it smells like. It smells like.
That was pretty fantastic. I mean, it was a little bit ugly American of him, but it was also Maya was trying really, really hard, and it was clear that she was really trying. It wasn't just coming naturally to her, so I thought that was astute.
Yeah, Jim is not happy.
No, well, have we really seen Jim happy?
When they were in first place in the first couple of weeks, and we've seen him team domination.
We've seen him satisfied. We've seen him placated. I don't think we've seen him happy.
So all the teams got through that, and again, Bethany was like, I'm like, why did she do this? This is gonna be, how is she gonna be able to do this to rip the hair off of the goat pelts? Because I'm like, how's she gonna be able to hold it down? But she was like holding it down with her feet.
And I loved her attitude with this. She pointed out she hasn't gotten to do a roadblock yet, and she was starting to feel a little bit insecure about it. So again, if you're feeling insecure, dive right in, do the roadblock, feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Good job, Bethany.
No, she did a really, really great job. Fantastic. Anyway, so then going to let's talk about now the bicycle part of this, because it really became an epic sort of battle between all of the teams on the bicycles.
Yeah, and that was crazy. It looked like there were a lot of little twisty, turny, winding alleys to get lost in, and everybody managed to get lost exactly the same way.
Now, Kim and Allie, who we haven't talked about, and who had another dominant episode, are really looking like they might be the team to beat on this season of the race. Again, they get another bicycle task.
Yeah, I mean, again, correlation's not causation, but last leg there were bicycles, this leg there were bicycles. Last leg the professional cyclists win, this leg the professional cyclists win. I'm just saying.
Reverse 5-hole indeed.
Reverse 5-hole.
Yes, so many bicycles in this test. But before all of the teams got to the bicycles, there was that confrontation between Jim and Misty and Shelley and Nici. And now
that was hardly a confrontation.
Well, but it's not behavior conducive to winning the Amazing Race, I do not believe.
Well, no, it is not that.
Like, why does Jim gotta say that? Blood in the water, blood in the water, there's blood in the water.
Jim's an instigator, man.
Yeah, why is he doing that to Shelley and Nici?
I think
Don't Shelley and Nici have enough problems fighting with each other?
he might be doing that kind of survivor thing of like kind of driving a wedge between them, and if they implode on each other, they're not going to go far.
He's like John Rocker during the challenges.
Yeah, although hopefully without all the toxic bigotry, but yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't know why you want to do that. I don't know why you want to, and then the confrontation spilled over to the bicycles when Nici and Misty kept crashing into each other's bicycles.
And Misty did a good job of smoothing that over. Like, she was terrified. You could kind of hear in her voice. She's like, I can't apologize enough for this. I'm going to be murdered.
Yes, by somebody.
By somebody.
By
If
somebody.
it's not Shelley and Nici, it's going to be Jim.
Yeah, and then was it Nici? Did Nici knock Misty's bike over then at one point?
Yeah, they were all like knocking into each other.
Yeah, but it was really exciting that all the teams were in the same spot with the bicycles.
Yeah, it was. I've never seen any task on this show ever where all of the teams were in one place in the middle of the task despite starting at different times, and they all converge on one spot. That was really chaotic and crazy and very fun to watch.
All right, so when we came out of that, then Keith and Whitney were in the first place. This is when they got into the shoving match with Shelley and Nici, which we talked about. Keith says to was it Shelley or Nici, push me one more time. Push me one more time.
He says this to Shelley. Push
Wow.
me one more time. And
Yeah.
what? Yeah, hit me, baby, one more time. And Shelley's like, and what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was Keith going to do?
He might have said some naughty curse words.
Oh my god.
He might have said some things that he regrets saying later.
Oh my god. Keith and Whitney will be joining us on Rob's podcast on Monday for an exit interview that we won't soon forget, I think.
I'm sure they'll be happy to speak to you, Rob, but I'm sure they'll be equally happy that I'm not there.
Well, I have my second ever exit interview with Keith and Whitney, so excited to hear what they've been up to.
Yeah, you can get all caught up.
Get all caught up with the scoop and
Yeah.
hear everything about The Amazing Race. That'll be on Monday on Rob Has a Podcast. Okay, so after this ends up happening, then we get to the detour. Twirl time or tea time? Jess, from the description of these two things, is there one that would have appealed to you more?
I think my instinct would have been to go for the tea. It just seemed like it sounded like it was a lot less physically taxing, and twirling your head for a full minute, like that doesn't sound like a long time, but then when you think about it a little bit more, that is kind of a long time, and I would not want to like have to run the rest of the race with like a sore neck. That would not be fun.
Yeah, so you think you would have been able to infer that just from the clue?
Well, they have the clue that you see them open on the screen, and then they have a sheet of paper that has the detailed breakdown of what they have to do. And they can decide, based on what they have in the instructions, how much they're going to need to, which one that is going to take them less time, and which one's going to hurt their neck less.
Yeah. I mean, on paper, it didn't seem like it was that hard. The guy made it look so easy. He was just like,
Yeah.
But it was very difficult.
I'm also a little gun shy because they had a task when Amazing Race Australia Season 2, I'm going to get super nerdy here, when they went to Istanbul, they had a task where they had to be whirling dervishes, and they had to spin in a circle for a period of time. And you hear that and you think, oh, that's not too bad. I'm just going to stand and spin in a circle. And it absolutely killed everyone that had to do it. They were all like super exhausted and dizzy and unhappy and miserable, and anything that involves spinning for a recorded period of time, I'm not going to be inclined to do that one.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to spin too much.
No,
definitely not. So it sort of played into Adam and Bethany's hands that it was a one-arm task.
Yeah, balancing something on one arm, something that plays to Bethany's strengths.
Would you say, is that a reverse 5-hole?
I don't think that's a reverse 5-hole, per se. I don't think she balances things on one arm for a living.
Well, she doesn't do it for a living, but I bet she does it all the time.
She probably does do it all the time. That's true.
Yeah. So that actually worked well with them. So who took the twirl time? It was Shelley and Nici, Keith and Whitney,
Yep.
and
And
Amy and Maya.
Amy and Maya, yeah.
Anybody else on twirl time?
No, everybody else was on the tee.
And everybody else went to tea time. Okay, so over in tea time, a couple teams were really struggling with it. We saw Misty. She was continually using the two hands.
Yep, and it was another case, like it was exactly like she did on the roadblock last time. There was one line of the thing that she completely ignored.
Yeah. Also, Robbie and Brooke, they struggled as well.
They did struggle. They struggled quite mightily, and again, it was like one small thing that they weren't really paying attention to how it was being done.
Yeah, they weren't pouring it high enough.
Right.
And then, of course, Tim and TJ as well, they were struggling.
Yeah. It seemed like between all three of them, they had one perfect pour, but, everybody's getting graded separately.
That's right. Kim and Allie were the only team that didn't really have an issue with it.
No, Kim and Allie were flawless.
Adam and Bethany also.
Yeah.
Well, Adam and Bethany are really good because it seems like they are really taking the, measure twice, cut once approach to some of these tasks.
Oh, yeah, they're very methodical and surprisingly detail-oriented, and I think a lot of where that comes from is they're very relaxed, and they're so comfortable with each other, and they're comfortable in any kind of stressful situation. I mean, I guess after you get your arm bit off by a shark, there's not a lot of stress in other situations for you, but they're coping remarkably well.
I guess that's why they're just, laid-back surfers, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Adam had a good line during the goat pelt task where he said to Bethany, "Hey, it's just like waxing my back, babe."
Yeah. Adam is funnier than anybody gives him credit for. He's had a couple of really great lines. Like when they were in Scotland in the castle, he sees the clue. He's like, "That one has blood on it. I'll take that one."
So you're a big Adam fan.
I am. I was not prepared to like them as much as I do, and I think they have their moments of hilarity, and they're very good at everything, and it's hard to begrudge them that.
Okay, so we are getting closer to the detour. Once Adam and Bethany are through and Kim and Allie are through, they get to the detour, and it was almost like the detour was kind of glossed over in this episode. We really didn't spend the U-turn. We didn't spend a lot of time on the U-turn at all in the episode.
Well, the U-turn didn't matter.
It didn't matter, right.
It ended up having no bearing on what was going to happen.
Yeah, but I love the U-turn. I feel like I got gypped of good U-turning.
Yeah, well, nobody pondered using the U-turn except one team. Like, you didn't get a lot of confessionals like, "I have to wonder when is a good strategic position to use the U-turn, and I'm going to contemplate using it," and blah, 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 blah. Nobody was contemplating using it except Shelley and Nici, who used it out of spite.
I know, but just after all of the drama that came out of the U-turn last season, I feel like this was so anticlimactic. After Brendan and Rachel, of course, what are they thinking? They U-turn Dave and Connor, and Dave happens to be old, and they use the U-turn on him, and that was like 3 weeks of drama last season.
Well, we have a very young cast, and nobody's age discriminating this time.
Okay, so that is a good point, that nobody was too old to be able to be U-turned.
Yeah, everybody is like well within the age limits of proper U-turnage.
All right, so Keith and Whitney, back to the tassel task. Keith says to Whitney, "It's your head that's making us not succeed." Now, was he being literal or figurative?
I'm not sure he knew which one he was being. But it was certainly literally true and figuratively true.
So then they end up switching.
Yeah, which they should have probably done much, much earlier.
Yeah, but then they switch back later.
Well, they had to switch back later. They got U-turned.
No, I mean, I meant that they switched, that Keith was the one with the tassel.
Oh, right. They did switch.
And then they ended up switching back again.
Looks like when they finally passed the task, it was Whitney that ended up passing it, so take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, well, she does have a musical background.
She has rhythm.
She has rhythm and is able to twirl her head.
Yeah, I don't know how much head twirling there is in country music, but if she's ever called upon to do it again, she will have had lots of practice.
Not enough, apparently. Also, Maya was having a problem with her hair.
Yeah, it was like they the hat just would not stick on her head.
Yes, that's a thing. So
Yeah.
then they switched roles also.
Yeah, and Amy was a band nerd, and so she was able to keep that rhythm and stay very coordinated because band nerds know how to do that kind of thing.
Yes, from all that time at band camp.
Yep.
They work on their rhythm.
This one time at band camp, I twirled my head.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. So ultimately, we get Shelley and Nici get through it. They're able to do it, and they get to the U-turn. And then this was very interesting. I feel like this was the first for the Amazing Race. Correct me if I'm wrong. We had sort of like a montage of like inside Shelley and Nici's head, like who should we U-turn? And then they thought about. We saw like the times when Jim and Misty were jerks to them, and the times that Keith and Whitney were jerks to them.
You know what that reminds me of? It's the same kind of editing they used in Survivor Amazon when your tribe was talking about all the beautiful girls on the other tribe, and they would like show up in the corner, this like little kind of blurry portrait of them as you were talking about how beautiful they were. Yeah. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, so we got to go inside Shelley and Nici's head.
I wanted to see like a little bubble pop up above their heads while they're thinking about it, but I was happy with the way they handled it. It really seems like the editing has taken a significant departure off of the last few seasons. I don't know if they've got new editors or if they're just trying a bunch of new things. Phil has told us he's trying a bunch of new things himself.
Friday night, new stuff.
I guess so. It's like a whole new show.
Yes, did you catch the ratings for The Amazing Race last week?
Yeah, they got the rap bump.
Phil comes on Rob Has a Podcast last Friday, tells everybody watch The Amazing Race. The Amazing Race ratings for last Friday night skyrocket. Up over 1 million viewers.
Yay us.
Yes, so half the people that listened to the podcast last week must have turned in for The Amazing Race Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that we had that many new viewers, but...
Yeah. Everybody heard Phil was coming on RHAP, and they checked out The Amazing Race.
Yeah, I'm very pleased, and I'm happy that you can put something in the Friday night death slot, and it's not necessarily a death sentence.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a good enough show, people will come to it.
Jess, what if the ratings grow this week? What if the ratings are up again on Friday night?
I would love that. That would make my entire week.
Best story maybe for The Amazing Race.
Yeah, it's a comeback. They're on the comeback trail. Cinderella story.
Last season also, I feel like the first couple of weeks on The Amazing Race, the ratings were really down, and then they ended up coming back up. Do people just like not tune in the first couple? Like, there's too many teams, I don't need to know. Like, all right, let me check in The Amazing. Now they're down to the final 8. Let me check in with what's going on. Like people who don't watch like until the playoffs start in the NBA.
Yeah, well, there were a couple of Survivor seasons that I kind of tuned out until the merge. I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, the early legs are kind of chaotic, and you're going to end up getting to know a whole bunch of people that you're going to see for 5 minutes before they get eliminated.
Interesting.
So, I would say, and in fact, sometimes I even tell people that, like, I've had friends who know that I'm really into this, and they know I do the podcast, and they want to be supportive. So they said, I'm going to start watching The Amazing Race. And they watched the first episode, and they're like, what the hell was that? That's the show that you do a podcast about? And I had to tell them, keep watching. It gets better. Like, once there's a few teams, culled from the herd, you get to know people. They start to get stressed out. It's really fun.
Yeah, I've never done that. Like, there's been reality shows I start watching and stop watching, but I've never, like, jumped in the middle.
I like to jump in the middle sometimes. I like to kind of try to piece together for myself. It's like an extra brain puzzle. Like, what happened that I missed? Like, what do I need to know to understand what's going on?
Okay, well...
It's kind of the same reason I watch the international editions of The Amazing Race that are in languages I don't speak.
Whoa. Maybe could you get Nici to come and translate for you?
She certainly could. One of those very series is in Spanish.
Okay. So when we get to the mat, Kim and Allie get there at the same time as Adam and Bethany. I thought that's kind of awkward, where it's like Kim and Allie run in the room, and then here's Adam and Bethany right after, and then Phil's like, well, Kim and Allie, you get $5,000 each. And I feel like if I was Kim and Allie, I'd be like not for Adam and Bethany. Like, isn't that... Do you want the other teams to resent you? Is there resentment for the second place team that finished like 30 seconds behind you? Do you want them knowing about your prizes?
Well, they must know there is a prize, and it's got
Right,
to
but do
be.
they have to, like, can't they just say like, oh yeah, it was something stupid, like we each got like a $250 to Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, we got a case of beer.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the prizes on Amazing Race Ukraine. That's their prize when they win a leg. They get a case of beer.
They're probably excited.
Yeah, they're very excited because they get to drink it right there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
but is that a
yeah,
thing, Jess? Am I reading too much into it?
it could have been way more awkward. Like if that had happened last week, and it's like, hey, you guys get cars. That would have been more awkward. I think $5,000. That's not the greatest prize on the board.
Yeah.
So it could have been a lot more awkward than it was. And I think Adam and Bethany can just kind of think in their heads, well, we can win another trip next time. Or maybe there'll be another car.
All right, so the other teams start to pour in. Tim and TJ get in. Shelley and Nici get to the mat, and Phil's like, Shelley and Nici, I'm so excited to see you. Last week you guys were fighting. They're like, you know what? Blood is thicker than water.
Yeah, I think that's a different show.
Yes. Should we get ready for Shelley and Nici as the new twinnies? Blood versus Water 3?
I would watch the hell out of that. That's amazing.
They're Team Matt Meltdown.
Team Matt Meltdown. They even have a built-in hashtag.
Okay. Whitney wants to give up on the task. At this point, we know that the horse is already out of the barn. We know they've been U-turned, so this would be the worst possible time now to give up on the task.
Yeah.
But they did do that, right? Ultimately?
They saw it through to the end, and I was impressed. I thought
they went to the T thing, and then they got U-turned, and then they had to go back and do the other task.
Yeah, they did. But
yes.
they could have they knew they were last at that point. They could have just walked up to the mat and been like, yeah, screw this, we're done.
Yeah, but so they left the castle thing.
Yeah, they did. And they did the T, which they should have done much earlier.
Yeah.
And then they ended up having to do the tassels anyway. And they did the tassels, and I was impressed by that.
Do you think they really got it for a minute, or do you think they did they got it for like 10 seconds and then like the producer's like, okay, we got it.
Are you saying it's like the Mark and Bopper Bollywood dance?
I think it might just be the everybody wants to go home. You're good. You're good. I think that's good enough. That's
good enough.
That's good enough. That's good enough. All right. So unfortunately, Whitney and Keith, they're out. It's these kinds of days. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's like the end of a good country song.
Yes. Why is it like the end of a good country song? Why isn't it like the start of a good country song?
No, it could be an entire good country song. You know, like deep, wrenching loss.
It could be. That could be the new #1 hit.
Yeah, I mean, if Jen and Caroline's hit about wanting to win the Amazing Race isn't bumping them out of the #1 spot.
That was the problem. Jen and Caroline did too well on the Amazing Race. They didn't have enough heartbreak.
Yeah, maybe that was their problem.
Yeah. All right, let's start to take some of your questions here from Scott St. Pierre. Dominic Pell wants to say, where does tonight's speed bump compare to previous speed bumps? I think it's harder compared to a lot that we've seen from the U.S. edition of the show. Jess, where did the speed bump compare for you?
I thought it was one of the hardest speed bumps that I've seen. And most of the speed bumps kind of are supposed to take a specific amount of time, and that amount of time is usually like 20 or 30 minutes. And it's always something like, you're going to do some yoga, or the Beekman boys had to go buy ice cream.
That's the one that we always talk about.
Yeah, or one of them you had to make a bowl of soup. And this one, there was some finesse and some skill and some problem solving involved. And it seemed like it was much tougher than a lot of the other ones we've seen. So
tough speed bump. I thought it was tough.
Good for Jim and Misty for not only getting through it, but for making up time.
Okay, let's take another question from Daryl Albert. Daryl says, did Jim just push a moped and an old lady out of the way walking down the alley? Did you catch that, Jess?
Yeah, Jim was, he had somewhere to be.
Out of my way! I'm going to get through, old lady!
And, if I saw Jim coming, I'd just jump out of the way. He wouldn't have to push
out of the way. Yeah. Watch out.
Yeah, I don't want him to get out his angry eyes.
Yeah, you'll get bamboozled. Okay, let's take a question from Arter Sabian. Question for you guys. How long of a break do they get before each of the legs do the contestants get to know and party with each other? Jess, what happens at the pit stops?
Well, I'm glad you asked this question, Artur. It used to be that there was a fixed amount of time, and it was almost always 12 hours, where teams would check in and they'd have to stay at the pit stop for 12 hours before they were let out again. And during that time, they would say, and Phil had his own little spiel about it, teams are going to eat, sleep, and mingle. And so they'd get to know
Whoa.
each other. And I was actually, when I was talking to Frank from season one on Sunday, he talked a lot about how his favorite moments on his race were the moments where they were all camping together and they got to hang out and have a big party. And season 14 was the last season where they were allowed to do that. And they finally decided there was kind of a altercation that took place during the pit stop that they didn't film, and they decided if teams are going to interact with each other and have fights, we want to make sure we catch that on film. So we are going to make sure that they're sequestered. They don't get to talk to each other unless they're out on the course.
Are you saying that the teams aren't ready to be single and ready to mingle?
They are not single or ready to mingle.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a question from Project Mobius. Are Shelley and Nici this season's heroes or this season's villains? I can't figure out if I'm supposed to love them or hate or not, but I do. Thanks for getting out this season's least interesting team. Oh, this must be an old tweet. Must be an old tweet from earlier this season,
Well, Rob, there's no accounting for
from the
taste.
first week maybe. So, Jess, are we supposed to like Shelley and Nici or not like Shelley and Nici?
Shelley and Nici are so all over the map. Like when they're doing well, I really like them, and they had this great moment at the mat, and they finished in the front of the pack, and they were really supportive of each other. But they tend to like they become my least favorite team very quickly whenever something bad happens. They just don't react well to stress, and that makes me not like them.
Their team meltdown. That's good TV. You don't like good TV?
I don't like awkward, uncomfortable TV.
That's my favorite kind.
Well, you're in the right business.
All right, let's take from Yuli. He wants to know, is this season set up for finally having another female-female winner team? Think casting did a good job on the female-female teams this season, Jess. Jess, I know you'd love to see another female-female team win. Of course, we would have to say that Kim and Allie would be at the forefront of that conversation. But are Amy and Maya in the mix?
Amy and Maya are dark horses. I mean, they're keeping it together. They have great attitudes. They're supportive of each other, and they have solved problems really quickly. Like they're good at logic and they're good at figuring things out very quickly. I think we're going to see them go far. But it actually struck me in Times Square when I saw the teams come out. I saw, there are so many female teams in the mix. Like they've never been four in one season before. Clearly, that means that they're trying to stack the deck a little bit, and I couldn't be happier. I'd like to see not only that there are a lot of female teams, but they are good TV and they're smart and capable and doing well at the race. Like, I would not put it past previous seasons of the race to end up with, if they're going to have four female teams, it'd be four Miami Realtor teams.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that.
Well, some people want that. Shelley and Nici, are they a possibility? Could you see a universe where Shelley and Nici win the Amazing Race?
Shelley and Nici have done shockingly well. Like they're always either right up in the mix or they're way in the back of the pack. And if they can come out on the right side of that, they could go pretty far.
Okay. We'll see. Team Mom Daughter, Team Matt Meltdown. What could happen? Matthew Bayless says, suppose the dentists need to use their save and go on to win the race. Could we as viewers be satisfied with this outcome?
I'd have mixed feelings about that.
Why? It'd be no different than if they got the non-elimination leg like they already did.
Well, they already did. And
So,
you know how we feel. Like we always feel a little bit cheated if a team gets saved by two non-elimination legs and goes on to win the whole thing. Like it was slightly disappointing in first season of Amazing Race Canada when you had the Tims get saved and wind up mostly at the back of the pack and then go on to win the whole thing. It was a little bit, like they got pretty lucky, or Jen and Caroline getting saved by non-elimination legs and winding up almost winning the whole thing. There's a lot of backlash on that, and I think you do have to be lucky when you go on the show, no matter who you are. Nobody wins the game without a little bit of luck, but this seems like it would be almost too much luck.
Too much luck. Okay. Let's take one from Samantha Mann, who says, I have been to Marrakech before. You have no idea how confusing the Medina is until you've walked aimlessly there for 3 hours. And those tannery tanks reek like you can't believe. Good episode, even if they were too bunched up for my taste. All right, so there was an eyewitness account of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, it reminded me a lot of, they were in such a small area the entire time. It reminded me of the leg in season 22 when they went to Botswana and they were all stuck on that little nature preserve and they could only stay within the area of the village. And it allowed for a lot of bunching. And this was better because not only was there bunching, there was getting lost. And it seems like you usually don't have both at the same time.
You like bunching?
I like mixing it up. I don't necessarily want everybody to be artificially placed in one spot at one time, but I like it when everybody is in the mix.
Okay. Let's go to Chad Shepard. And Chad Shepard said, why not use the U-turn if you're the cyclist and see the Soul Surfers close behind you to secure first place? Well, that's a good way to get yelled at like Brendan and Rachel did.
Yeah, it's just not, it's not sporting, I guess, is the prevailing sentiment. It'd be a perfectly valid use of the U-turn, but it's not accomplishing anything except making people mad at you.
Yeah, and maybe Kim and Allie don't want to be hated by America for U-turning the girl with one arm either.
Yeah, there is also that.
There's also that. If Dale felt like, hey, I'm old, you can't U-turn me.
We gotta weigh these now, Rob. We gotta compare. What is worse? What's gonna make America madder at you? You turning someone with one arm, or you turning an old guy?
Yeah, it's definitely you turning a girl with one arm that everybody loves, and not the guy who's old. Even if it's an old guy.
But he's old, Rob. Come on, man.
He's an old guy. He's a cancer survivor. He came back from Achilles' heel. Still not as bad as you turning the girl that everybody loves, who had her arm bitten off by a shark, and they made a movie about her.
Yeah, they haven't made a movie about Dave
yet. Where's the Dave movie?
Wait, didn't they make a Dave movie starring Kevin Kline in the 90s?
That wasn't about him.
Different Dave.
Different Dave. Stop it. Stop it. Okay. Spicy Wasabi wants to know who is the better of Team Weath? Well, I think you have to give it to the Survivor. The Team Weath 2 is now Team Weath 1. Yeah,
Team Weath Survivor is still in it. Like, they are 100% in it. They're not even 50% in it. They're both still there. So, Wes and Keith destroyed Whitney and Keith.
All right, real quick, Jess. I need your reality TV country music power rankings real quick. Real quick. We got to update reality TV. We don't have a lot of time for this. All right. Let me just just throw the names out there. Number 1 is Chase Rice, correct?
Chase Rice is always number 1 on the power rankings and in our hearts.
Number 1 in the reality TV country music power rankings.
Yes.
Okay. Who's number 2? Beast Mode Cowboy?
Beast Mode Cowboy had a good summer.
Okay.
I will give him that.
Who is number 2? I heard Derek's dad bought him a car.
Yeah, that was quite the sweet ride. I saw the tailgate on that thing.
Who's number 2?
Everyone should drive a pickup with a portrait of themselves in the tailgate.
Yes.
Then I think we'd go Chase Rice, Beast Mode Cowboy, Jen and Caroline.
Jen and Caroline are number 3. All right. Who's number 4?
Who's left?
Okay, well, you got Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
You've got
Baylor.
Baylor Wilson.
Yeah, Minnie Muffin.
Yes.
I think she's got to be beating Whitney, considering she's still on the TV.
She's still on TV?
Yeah.
But I think that Whitney's in iTunes. Is Baylor on iTunes?
Well, that I don't know. I haven't gone on iTunes and tried to. I have not tried to purchase Sticky Situation yet.
Okay. All right. So what do you giving us?
I'm gonna rank Whitney above Baylor.
Whitney
has a better voice too. Baylor's got kind of a limited range.
Okay.
She's a little bit pitchy.
Is there anybody else? It's a pitchy situation?
It's a pitchy situation.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anybody else, although I really want to make the most epic mixtape.
What about Brett Eldridge, who visited the Big Brother house this summer?
Oh, does he really count though?
He should count. He should count.
Hey, he didn't. He wasn't really in the game. He was
Okay.
just like.
All right. Well, tell us in the comments if we forgot anybody in
I'm
the
sure
country
we did.
music CBS reality TV power rankings.
And I'm sure there's plenty of people that like they have secret stealth country music careers that we are not even aware of.
I'm sure they do. Okay, let's do a couple more questions. This is from Paulie Canada. Wants to say, do you think that they cast a really poor strategic cast on purpose for Survivor 29? So Survivor 30 also. Well, I think this is the wrong show, Scott. That we're talking about the Survivor All Stars. I'm drunker than Moses. Wants to say, Misty seems terrible at the task. Seems like Jim is doing all the work. Reminds me of Nicole and Travis from Amazing Race 23. Ironic, both in Medicine Field Works. Are Jim and Misty like the new power parents?
I think Jim is a little bit more supportive, although we have a lot of race left. He could end up pulling a Travis.
Yeah. Okay. We will see exactly what happens if they're the new power parents. Samantha Mann says, now that they're eliminated, Keith and Whitney are on a paid honeymoon in Ponderosa or whatever it's called. That wasn't a question. That was just mean.
That was just a statement. It's Elimination Station is what it's called, actually.
Is that a good honeymoon? I bet it's not. Hey, I bet it's not bad.
It's a resort usually, and it's usually somewhere pretty awesome. Like it's been in Thailand and it's been in Portugal and Mexico. So yeah, I would not kick that out of bed for eating crackers.
All right, let's do one last question. From Yuli wants to say, Shelley and Nici left their bags in the cab, but the cab was never needed again through the whole leg. Where did the bags go?
You don't need to see every single thing that they do. They probably pulled their bags out and they decided to leave that on the cutting room floor.
Why? How do we know that, Jess?
We don't know that, but
it's Chekhov's bags. They wouldn't have set that up unless it's going to pay off. Maybe next week they realize they left their bags in the cab in Morocco.
I'm pretty sure that is
luggage.
We would have seen that hyped up a lot more. We would have seen the camera like go in on it. Yeah, this is. Remember when Mark and Mallory left their bag and the camera zoomed in meaningfully on it? That didn't happen, so I'm going to say that's not what's going on.
In this episode, they'll flash back to it next week.
In black and white.
Black and white. Like, hey, where did we leave our bags again? Like, Nici! Hashtag Team Matt Meltdown. All right. So Monday, we have a lot coming up. Interview with Keith and Whitney.
Keith and Whitney.
Should be lively. What do you want to know from Keith and Whitney?
I will come up with a whole list of questions for you over the weekend.
Do not make me buzz you again, Jess.
You don't want me to be like, I don't want you to ask them why they suck.
Yeah.
That'd just be mean.
But when I talked to Coach on the podcast yesterday, Coach even coming out on the attack against Keith and Whitney. I have to defend the Survivor royalty team again on the Amazing Race, left and right on this show.
Well, I'm glad that they've got someone in their corner, and if they have to have someone in their corner, I'm glad it's you.
Yes, I got to keep on fighting against all of the Keith and Whitney interlopers.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
Yes, well, I'm getting ready. I'm going to be on the quest also with Keith and Whitney. Get my sun spear ready, Scott. All right. So we also got next week coming up on Monday. I'm going to talk to AJ Mass. Just time to talk about the 12 archetypes on Survivor.
Wow, that came up fast. I was not prepared for AJ Mass.
Well, 18-person season. We got down to the final. We got 13 people left. There's one that's like the marriage of convenience. That's really 2 people. So we're going to talk about the archetypes coming up on Monday.
That's always a fun show. I like that one.
Always a fun show. And then, of course, we'll get ready to do all of the Survivor stuff again next week on post-show recaps. Also a big weekend. Jeremiah Panhorst and Antonio Mazzaro are going to host the Boardwalk Empire finale podcast. They're going to do that one live on Sunday night. It's the series finale. They're going to do a live show. And then Josh Wigler and I will do our post-show recaps of The Walking Dead live after the West Coast version. So a little bit of a change up there, a little bit of a curveball, Jess.
Well, everybody's got to be on their toes.
Everybody's got to be on their toes. Just like when Josh and I did the Walking Dead Survivor season this week.
That was quite the show. I must say that was pretty epic.
Yeah, it's very, very, very epic. All right. So, Jess, what's coming up in the blog?
What's coming up in the blog? I think I pat myself on the back the whole time for being right about a whole bunch of stuff that people did correctly.
You're going to tell us all the people that ripped you off this season?
All the people that are reading the JL rules. I'm not going to say they ripped me off. I'm saying they're taking guidance.
That should be a blog. That should be, or maybe it's an off-season piece of the JL rules of the Amazing Race.
Yeah, I'll add it to my long and ever-growing list of evergreen topics to use during the off-season.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe you could borrow. Maybe you could borrow them. How about get organized?
That's a good one. You know, Boston Rob's missing out on a really good opportunity here. He could write a whole sequel to his book and have it like
about
be race-centric. Yeah, where is this?
I think this is the best chapter. This one is. Let me see. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's got rock formation.
No, it's called miscellaneous stuff.
Miscellaneous stuff. What a great chapter heading.
Yeah.
How did this not win the Pulitzer, Rob?
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so we're gonna be back. Jesse, you have a hashtag?
Oh God, I had a bunch at the beginning. I need to start writing down the hashtags. I'm gonna go with hashtag meaniehead.
Okay, there you go. Because that's what Jessica Liese is. It's been well documented now.
Yeah. I wear that proudly.
Yes. All right. So. A very, very fun show tonight. Got to talk about the Amazing Race. We'll be back next week. What do you think? Now, next week, elimination or not elimination?
It's got to be elimination.
Okay, it's got to be an elimination because as we continue the march to 1,000, that's going to throw off the count to when we're doing the 1,000th Rob as a podcast. This one is number 991.
Oh my goodness!
As we march towards 1,000.
We need like a graphic to come up with like triumphant trumpet music, like the quest for 1,000.
Keith and Whitney exit interview coming up, going to be number 993.
That's a good number too. We're getting there.
History in the making. All right, so have a great weekend, everybody. Love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. By the way, special shout out to Shane Gallagher, who's been writing our Amazing Race recaps this season of these shows. Greatly appreciate that. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. And great job, Scott, with the questions. Take care.